He goes, checks clock. It's 2 p.m.
It's Tuesday.
It must be Minot Talk.
Holy Toledo, it's time.
Amen to that. Minot Talk every Tuesday, 2 p.m. here at the Dakotan. We break down the things that have happened in the last week in Minot, and today we preview what's going to happen tonight at 5:30 at City Council.
Yeah, special session tonight at 5:30. It's a Tuesday on an off City Council week, so it's a budget Q&A for the City Council tonight. They have a chance to ask the budget department and the staff any questions they want. They've had about 2 weeks to think it over, so be fun. We'll be talking about that. We'll be previewing that and get to talk about that a little bit later.
I think something that's important for people to remember is budget talks are happening right now.
Yep.
I mean, not literally at this moment, but it's going on at City Council in sessions. And if you have a problem with the budget, if you have a problem with money being spent on wayfinding signs, right now is your chance to say something, which is a funny thing. We'll talk about wayfinding signs later.
Yes, that was specifically mentioned by City Manager Harold Stewart in his presentation.
All right, so we wanted to, we almost pulled this clip, but first off, we have a request, and City Manager Stewart did respond to us. We will be getting a podcast, just a one-on-one with him later this year sometime. I don't want to commit to a time. We haven't worked out logistics at all.
Nothing set in stone, but it's all agreed upon that it's going to end up happening at some stage.
But and so I'm gonna, and if he's watching this, he can be ready, because we had a clip at the last City Council session where he was cutting up with the mayor, Tom Ross, which if you watch City Council sessions, one of the most funnest things about them is watching Harold Stewart. He's a good guy.
He is. Harold Stewart he's
a phenomenal guy.
Incredibly smart. Incredibly good at his job.
He's
super knowledgeable.
Thinks of stuff from every angle, but he's always very stoic. Very
monotone?
Yeah.
Way to put it.
But he cracked a smile. He laughed a little bit. He told a joke. It was great.
And sitting in the audience live, with the way it's angled, you can't see anyone's heads or faces. So you kind of can hear the banter, but unless you were watching live on the live stream, you can't see it. So to actually see Harold Stewart crack a smile and get a little light, I love it.
Hey, we're watching City Manager Harold Stewart.
Exactly.
We're a fan. All right, we're looking forward to interviewing.
Good job on the budget proposal. It was incredibly in depth. I still don't know if I understand it, but I'm trying.
So, which is an interesting thing. We got other stuff we're going to talk about, but it's an interesting thing because as soon as they get done with getting the now 2025 budget put together, almost immediately they go back to work on the 2026 budget. And we're talking about, this is like, people at home, you might have a one-page budget that you use yearly. Maybe you're more in depth than that. Who knows? But a lot of times you're not all that in depth. This is like a 200-300 page document. How much is it?
The summary is 168 pages.
168 pages. 168 pages. And he knows every single page. He knows what's going on.
Like the back of his hand. It was incredible to watch. It was poetry in motion. If numbers and budgets are your thing 2 weeks ago. But before we dive deep into the budget,
there was this thing that happened in Minot.
What was
I think they call it like a state fair.
Oh, is that why it was all busy and traffic was all doing stuff?
Dude, there was no traffic this morning on the way to work.
It was weird.
It was fantastic.
Going home last night too. It was like nothing.
Yeah. 342,000 plus people showed up in Minot.
Incredible turnout for the fair. Not quite the record though.
No, what's the record?
I think it was last year at like 350 some thousand.
Oh, Craig, come on.
I'm pretty sure that's what I read was last year was the record number of 352 or 354. But still a great year this year. I mean, ton of people came. Some of the concerts were packed. I know the last night had a packed show. The Mandan Indian Horse Relay was packed.
I'm sure that's popular.
It's a great time. I know one event that was packed as well, but they were sitting there waiting a little while, was last Wednesday's second concert of the evening, the Lil Wayne show, which we mentioned a little bit last week.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. So you had that problem with Lil Wayne, doesn't get in Saturday. Who knows what happened?
Stuff happens.
We know the official statement. You have Sawyer Brown, who did you see the post that they put out after later that day?
I did not.
I'll pull it up in a minute and it'll make you feel really bad. And you got all this stuff going on, right? Did you go to many of the shows at the fair? not concerts, but the different shows around like the dog.
I went to one. Yeah.
What one
The
did you go?
dog one.
Did they give you quite the intro?
I missed the start of it.
Okay.
I caught it about halfway through.
Because I went to that one with my kid,
I'm sure
and
he loved it.
he made it. He did the dogs did all right. Actually, honestly, the dogs missed a lot of frisbees. All right, and he commented on that. I'm not being a.
Your son even noticed.
Well, I don't know if my son noticed. I sorry. The guy,
Oh,
the presenter
okay,
commented on that.
I got you. Okay.
My 3-year-old son was just, I don't know what he's thinking about. Probably lemonade and donuts.
Isn't that what we all think about?
Yeah, but the guy made it borderline family friendly. I wasn't thrilled about that.
It was a little.
He had one joke in there that he shouldn't have had in there. And then he goes and he makes a comment.
Mm-hmm.
We need to clap really loud because Craig Rudlin had to do a really hard job to get us here. He had to convince the board to let us come back. And so we need to go and give so much appreciation that the board hears it.
Okay. That was the point. He actually said that?
He actually called out the North Dakota State Fair board at his show. And I was
That's
like,
interesting. So
bold.
I'm surprised that okay. So obviously I know they've been here in the past and it's been a popular enough show. So I
3 or 4 years, he said.
Yeah. And I guess this just leads to the next stage of it where maybe the fair wanted to move on, try something new, but
Eventually.
the new director loved it and just wanted to make it happen. And
yeah, fought for him.
Exactly. I had to get in his corner, back him up and say, hey, this is a tried and true event. Fans love it. People love to go to it. And lo and behold, they ended up making it again this year.
He said that the only reason they made it, he claimed the reason why they were there is because Craig Rudlin went to bat for them with the board to allow them to come back. And so we need to go and give them enough appreciation that the board is fine with it next year.
Well, round of applause for the Craig, but I mean, jeepers, I'm shocked that he.
So I'm guessing there won't be no dog.
We'll have to see next. Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on this story till next year.
Right,
was it July 18th through the 25th? I think next year is
sounds about right.
They announced, which is going to be a great time, I'm sure, as always. But,
so Sawyer Brown.
Yes, back to that last Wednesday.
A thank you note from Hobie. I don't know how to say his name. I don't know the artist in Sawyer Brown, but this is a note that they left the day of. We're playing Minot Indie at the State Fair today, and wow, what a flood of memories. My very first show on the road when we were the band for another artist was here at this fair. We played on one of the free stages at the fair for the whole week, and because someone was too cheap to get us a hotel room, we slept on the bus and showered in the sheep barn. Forgive me if that sounds like bragging. We ate every day at the Lutheran Ladies food booth, and I mean every day. Oh, those burgers and pie. Well, today we ate at the Lutheran Ladies food booth again. They're celebrating 100 years of serving at the fair, but I'll probably skip showering in the sheep barn this time. But how crazy grateful am I that we are still out here getting to make music. It is beyond a blessing, so thank you all. Now, excuse me while I go get a second piece of pie. All right, so this is left by one of the artists with Sawyer Brown. The same group that got kicked to 2 p.m.
pushed ahead.
So that way little Wayne could show up 3 hours late.
Roughly.
2 or 3 hours late.
I think, was it supposed to start at 7 or 8?
Nah, it depends on who you ask, probably.
Yes, but he didn't get on until almost 10:30.
I think the concert starts at 7. I think he was probably supposed to be on stage at 8, maybe.
Probably, but yeah, it was almost 10:30 when he finally got on stage, and a lot of time for a lot of people to sit out there waiting in hot weather. Not a great recipe. So, lo and behold, like we mentioned last week on our Minot Talk podcast, what ended up happening at the at that concert, but some fights breaking out. It's terrible. It shouldn't happen, but it always does at the fair.
Always does.
Then going on to the next night. So Lil Wayne was late on Wednesday. And also, from what I heard, he didn't put on that long of a performance either, but he did perform. So that's all that matters.
Yep.
And
better than Saturday night.
Exactly. So that was on Thursday night when Machine Gun Kelly was there to play. His opening act was Shabuzi, who has a really popular country song out right now. It's going around, and he went on time. Shabuzi did, and then Machine Gun Kelly's supposed to get on, and he's nowhere to be found. Lo and behold, he ends up showing up about an hour late himself. Apparently, he also had flight issues getting into Minot. However, though Machine Gun Kelly played his whole set, he didn't only play like 45 minutes. He went the whole.
How are people having trouble getting to Minot?
Are we just that in the middle of nowhere?
City manager, got a question for you. I heard Lainey Wilson was started on time.
Yes, it did, and so did Thomas Rhett.
Okay.
Both of those. And Lainey Wilson,
country music doesn't have a problem starting on time.
I saw she had a pickup on stage that she like stood up and sang on.
All right, yeah. So
I didn't go, but
so how did that get there?
That's a great.
Did they put it in the back of a semi? Can that thing fit in the back of a semi?
If it's a real truck or if it's just a prop.
Yeah, fair.
I couldn't get there, so it wasn't close enough. I saw plenty of pictures and videos. That was kind of neat.
Interesting. State fair. I guess that's a big deal. I finally got to try cheese curds there live in person, fresh. I made the decision that, you know what? Cheese curds may not be a priority next year.
I didn't get any this year.
They're good, but I'm getting old because
sit in your
yeah, I'm starting to have stomach problems.
Yeah. When that grease separates, those things just sit like a rock.
It's the weirdest thing, man. And then the lemonade, best deal. Make sure you keep your huge jug. $12 for a refill. You can't beat that, at least with state fair prices. But it's still like 100 gallons of the lemonade.
I was gonna say you do get a lot of it in there.
Yeah, like it can't be 100 gallons. It has to be 100 ounces. Let's get this right.
But it's give or take.
Give or take. Had the cinnamon donuts. They're all right. There's last week I probably commented about the wild rice burger.
Yeah.
Obviously still not there. Now, when I went to the food area, I was disappointed, honestly. I settled on a burger from Tubby's. Sure. First time I've ever had a burger from Tubby's. Have you had one?
It's been years, but yeah.
Dude. Like, this thing is huge. Yeah.
Tubby's is one of the more popular places for a reason. And it
was a huge burger.
And it's not nearly as expensive as most of the places.
Yeah, it was $12.50. I had a bun, a burger, because you got to count everything at the fair. All right. Lettuce, mayo, best thing ever, mayo, onions, and tomato.
So it's a full cheeseburger.
Yeah, for $12.50. Only problem is you have to pay cash, and I didn't have any cash. So I had to run into the State Fair Center, go pull out money. State Fair Center only allows you to get withdrawals, yes, in increments of 50. Run back out with more money than I wanted to have, and finally got my burger. And I had to pay an extra $5 to pull money out of the account. So
of course, because can't get away with those ATM fees.
So that burger actually did cost me a little bit more than $12.50, but it was delicious.
Yeah, walking around the fair, if you're going down that Midway area, Tubby's is always packed.
It is. Like both of them. There's two of them.
Exactly.
I went to the first one. That didn't work out.
So you had no burgers. The little food truck one they had in the back. That's like
the
just
place.
Burgers, I think.
Yeah,
right?
just burgers and fries.
Okay.
We got drinks too, but yeah,
they can really whip through it there. I bet. A lot more
it took a while, but it's the fair. So
it's
we live with it. All right, so somebody is making it on, or I guess you have any fair stories that you wanted to share?
Nothing fun.
Fun?
I tried. There was the dill pickle pizza at the fair. I tried that. It was phenomenal.
Dill pickle pizza.
Dill pickle pizza.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, it was. I was shocked. I wasn't expecting it to be good. It was great. I loved it. I went back for more.
I still don't expect it to be good, actually. Even after you said that, I still don't expect it to be good.
I also say lutefisk is good, so you should be right to take.
We do need to change subjects. Going to news and upcoming events.
On that note, breaking news coming in just now. Team USA women's gymnastics won gold medal in the team event.
Way to go.
That just happened. I saw that like right as we went live.
China, they're going to be wanting to beat us in gold medals. They know
we're coming.
I think we know we beat them in total medal count. They just want to beat us in gold medal count.
Yeah, that's the we not to brag, but America normally always has that total medal count.
It's been getting close though.
It has, but the real race, like you mentioned, is for the gold. Is who's going to take home that top amount of gold medals, and I think we'll get it. We're America. Come on. We're always getting there.
All right. Look at who's this person that made it on the ballot.
Yeah. So speaking of some more local state news, for the governor race, independent candidate Michael Coachman is going to be on the ballot. He announced his candidacy back in like January, February. He was on the ballot 4 years ago to be as an independent for governor race. He also tried to recall Governor Doug Burgum a few years back during COVID-19 when all that was going on. Obviously didn't work, but he is going to be on the ballot officially this fall.
There you go.
So
you have options.
Three options going to be on the ballot.
That's interesting. All right,
but yeah, for sure 3.
I pulled it up. Who's the 4th?
I mean, if like a libertarian
Oh,
or someone,
gotcha.
they're all the only other like remotely major party in the state that would have a chance. But I don't even know if they've nominated anyone. So
Right.
we'll see if it happens.
In Tokyo, 113 total medals by USA, 89 by China, and we won the gold 39-38.
Ooh,
Men's basketball
came in and did it for us.
I think isn't that the one of the last sports around?
It's normally because that's one of the bigger draws. So they try to have that on one of the last nights.
Yeah, that's epic. There's more you could talk about the Olympics, but we ain't. We're gonna move on.
That could be a whole episode in of itself, but we're not Olympic guys.
We're not.
Last week, I think it was on last Thursday. I don't know where you live in Minot, but on the western side of town, there was a little bit of a power outage that went on. I know it only lasted a couple hours, but also I think that tells you how little news is going on in Minot that we're talking
about. The light was green for a long time.
For a few hours, about like 2,000 people roughly got affected. Power was out last Thursday, which was really hot. So I mean,
that's not good.
It was in the middle of the day, so I'm sure a lot of people weren't home, but XL got it fixed and a classic time.
And then there's some lottery news.
Yeah, the North Dakota state government announced what their revenue or profits were from running the state lottery. It was just under $10 million, which is going to be added to the state's general fund. So
state gets richer.
Keep buying them lottery tickets and help funding the state government.
Yeah, no kidding.
If you win, though, I mean, you can't win if you don't try.
This is true.
One other big thing I saw coming up, I think you brought this up to me. The Minot State University hockey coach got announced to be an assistant coach on the Olympic hockey team.
Big, dude.
Yeah.
That's big.
So yeah, to loop back into our Olympics conversations. Wyatt, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. Waslinchuk, who formerly played for Minot State. He won a championship here like 10 years ago. He was then an assistant coach when they won a championship like 5-6 years ago. And then he was the head coach when Minot State won the championship, I want to say a year or two ago, 23, I think. And so, yeah, he's going to have a great opportunity to be an assistant coach starting this winter. I know there's some scheduling issues. He might have to miss a game or two to go be the assistant coach. So whoever Minot State's assistant coach is might have to be an interim coach for a day or two. I know he said there shouldn't be any issues though with long-term standings. And that's
cool.
And that's exciting.
Minot actually has a decent hockey team.
That we do. It's men's and women's.
Yeah. Minot State, I should say, but yeah,
I want to assume a lot of we get our talent where we know we can get good talent from, and we're in a cold climate, so we have to try to emphasize those things. And
it's crazy to think about how UND is a top hockey team in the country
nationally,
right?
And not
in Division I.
Yeah, because Minot State is we specify it's in Division II or III.
Yeah,
and UND is top of the brass,
right?
Like they are consistently one of the top hockey schools in the nation.
That's crazy to realize.
Without it, yeah. I mean, it's been a couple of years since I think they've won, but I mean, regardless, they're consistently always in the competition.
We ain't talking about NDSU that's good at football and Division II football, whatever. FCS.
You betcha.
We ain't talking about that. We're talking about top of the line stuff. All right, man. So 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago,
time for the nitty gritty. 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, there was the city council meeting that went for 5.5 hours. We talked about that. We're not picking on anybody about the 5.5 hours today.
Yeah,
okay,
we
ain't doing that.
To talk about from it.
There was a ton of stuff, and I missed the episode of Minot Talk right after it, and actually all of Minot missed the first 30 minutes of it. But
whoops,
it happens.
Oopsie.
But all right. So if you go to myDakota.com, we put out the article that is covering the purchase of trucks.
Yep.
Wesley's, you lost, be cheaper. Actually, it's not even price. Being on point with your specs, man. Get it right.
Get that bed 2 inches smaller.
2 feet.
2 feet smaller. Yeah.
So talked about that, which was an interesting discussion. I really liked the clip where Councilman Fuller went to bat for the small businesses. Yeah. And this is actually something that I wanted to highlight today. So last week I saw, after Minot Talk, like KHRT announcing that they're shutting down.
Okay.
Pacific Sound and Audio. They're closing.
Yep.
Nodak or Spartan Firearms is closing.
Out west of town there.
End of July. There's a lot of small businesses that are taking hits right now.
Yeah.
Okay. We at the Dakota, we're not shutting down yet. No. We're
we
fighting
can make
still.
this go as long till we can't.
Um,
But no, without
it's a hard climate for small businesses. And let's realize something, that on the map and the scale of business, a lot of the big businesses in Minot are still small businesses.
Yeah.
I don't know how many employees Wesley's has. They probably would get into the mid-sized business. And Trinity obviously is very large, nonprofit. But you're talking about, when you're looking at small businesses, it's into like 50 employees.
Yeah,
That's a small
you're
business.
normally under that.
Yeah. So that's something that's really important for the city to remember and consider. And I understand that they have their process that they do, and I respect it. But it's something that should be looked at. If we're going to, which all the talk is, or a lot of talk, I think from both sides, is that we're kind of like in a difficult place financially overall. Like, we could be, Lord, recession could be mentioned, stuff like that. People are being very tight. It could just be going into the election, and after the election will be fine. But or there could be bigger problems. Reading about in other markets how housing market is being heavily affected right now.
Yep.
Hundreds of $1,000s being lost on homes.
Yep.
It's a really important time to shop local, truly.
And to support your home community, your areas where it matters most at this point.
Yeah.
That's your home. That's your rock.
I really liked the point that Councilman Fuller brought up. And again, I'm all I'm saying here is I like the points. I understand that there's a full discussion, and I'm not trying to take shots at the other council people that commented on this, said, wait a minute, we had a discussion about this, and we have a process, and we need to respect that process. I understand that, and I respect that. I'm not, but I mean, you got Wesley's who spends hundreds of $1,000s in taxes a year, and they lose a bid because of a few $1,000s.
And the little caveat on it all, they're also going to then be the company that's doing all of the.
They'll do the maintenance
on the new vehicles,
which is good. That's although I think that almost goes without saying. Like, you're going to bring it to the Ford place, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because you're buying Fords. Why other places are not submitting bids is interesting, unless and this was the question that was not asked, is there. So if you want Ford, like, you can only go. Maybe there's a used car place that could get Fords. I don't know what the spec request was. I didn't pull it up. But was it specifically in the request that there was supposed to be a Ford?
Had to be a Ford,
because Chevy Ryan GMC is going to struggle there.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So we're talking about, well, there's only one local company that submitted a bid, but wait a minute, did the other companies even have a chance?
That's the thing. If they specifically needed it to be a Ford, I mean, the only place in mind that you're going to get it's going to be Wesley's.
Yeah, and that's speculation.
We have no idea.
We didn't pull up, and maybe we should put a request in just to kind of see
just
that,
to confirm that. Maybe, but
because that was a question I had on it. But it's also interesting in the city council and the layout of that city council, where you're talking about the 7,000, and you have council people that are making a big deal. Like, that's a lot of money, that adds up. But let's go spend $920,000 on a piece of property. Let's go do that. And it's like, okay,
where do we draw the line at?
Yeah, what are we talking about here, guys? Interesting thing, though. Very interesting.
One thing before we move off of that too, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I got to call myself out here. I'm almost positive I referenced that as a 4-3 vote. It was actually a 5-2 vote, and I know I mentioned
Blessum went with it.
Yeah, Blessum voted in favor with the other 4 that had been there to purchase from Nelson Auto rather than.
I didn't talk to Blessum, but based off his comments, I think he went on it because he said, off the principle that we have been, that we already have a principle set, that this is the way we do it. That was essentially why he voted yes. But he was like, we should relook at that.
And I know he was one of the people that was questioning the specs specific, like most or intuitively, I guess. And I know he commented, this might be paraphrasing, it's when they told the specs that it was 2 foot longer bed. He said, okay, so it's not they're wrong or better, they're just different.
Yeah. And that was also a really good point. It's like, I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
A 2-foot bed, that can be a big deal depending on what they're trying to get done.
Extra $12,000 is mostly probably going at.
Yeah. It could be, yeah, for sure. So interesting thing there. I know that we've talked about a lot, but
Just
hey,
to wrap that in
yeah,
again.
get that a little more commentary on that. Second thing was the Kemper property purchase.
Yep.
So we're gonna probably be doing a series of articles on this one. That will come out over the next couple weeks because there's a lot that went to it.
Talking about the property itself, talking about the greater
The Livingston Coulee,
Livingston Coulee.
right? And but and we addressed it all in the article that was put out on Saturday, I believe, Saturday night.
Yep.
Um,
Check out mydakotan.com.
Yeah, go to mydakotan.com to check that out. Daily news, man. We got stuff coming out every day right now.
You betcha.
But what was interesting about that was, and I guess maybe I should have pulled the clip because we're pulling clips now. We're going high class here.
Fancy here.
Interesting how Public Works Utilities Director,
Mm-hmm.
and he might be Assistant Public Works Director, Jason Sorensen, talked about, and he like had this statement where it's like, well, I know it's kind of weird that I'm coming back here, and you could tell it was a little bit awkward for him because on the July 1st one, he says
he was the one that presented it originally.
And it just felt the whole situation is weird.
It is. It's just got a weird feel to it.
It's got a very weird feel to it.
I don't disagree with the term shady that was thrown around.
It was shady, and it was like, well, icky.
Yeah,
icky for sure.
Definitely.
But all right, I'm gonna go and I would love to interview the guy. So Mr. Ackerman, if you hear me, let's have an interview.
Let's talk.
But I'm gonna say that Mr. Ackerman Ryan Ackerman may be the most influential person in Minot.
Debatably. I mean,
it'd be strong debate. There's a lot of people. There's people that are like, no, it's got to be this person.
But he's certainly in the conversation. And I think Tom Ross, the mayor, did a great job of at least helping him stand on that footing. I mean, he called him the most knowledgeable person on flood control in the city of Minot.
Yeah, it was some very
along
strong
those lines. I mean,
which is great.
Yeah,
that's not a slam towards Ryan Ackerman.
Not at all. But
it was interesting though, and it's documented in the article that we put out on Saturday. The exchange that Public Works Sorensen had with Ackerman following the July 1st meeting, when it was the word expected was used and then taken back. There was surprise. There was some type of emotion that it was not passed.
Mm-hmm.
That property was not purchased.
Mm-hmm.
There was almost an expectation.
Like, yeah, I didn't want to use the term, but I was trying to search for something else, but it felt like there was just an expectation that it would just be if not a consent item, but just an item that would be easily pushed through.
Easy done. And it was like people thought that just because it was adjacent, it would be an automatic purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand where that's coming from, but I also get the pushback, like, how long are we going to do this? Like, if you have property next to the city, you can just sell it to the city. They'll buy it automatically.
Yeah.
Like, is this just because it's adjacent? And there was no real reason. The best reason was lay down area.
Mm-hmm.
But then the part that makes it weird is that when they purchase it, it's for flood control now.
Yeah.
It was purchased for flood control. There can be no permanent structure on that property.
As a vital necessity for flood control, too.
Vital necessity. Yes. Very important.
My thought. So I know originally there was talk about subdividing it and like potentially selling part of it off and then using the other part for.
Yeah, which was an interesting thought.
I wonder if they could still work that in somehow since it's for flood control, but if you could subdivide off just what is necessary for flood control.
It's true.
And then take the rest and either build on it or sell it off, however you'd want to do. But I'm just curious if that's still a possibility at this point, even.
And it's true. And an explanation that was given by Ackerman, I believe, was like, we're going to purchase this property. I believe it could have been somebody else. It doesn't matter who said it,
mm-hmm.
but it was said essentially, we're going to purchase this property with our, I believe, enterprise fund. And then we will get a refund from the state for the 75% of the purchase price, which brings the total down dramatically. But I say that to say council approved it for flood control with the understanding that 75% was going to come from the state, but that money has not come yet. So there could be another idea that comes up and says, hey, can we do this instead? Or as well as you're saying, and something else happens. But it was an interesting point that Blesson brought up
Yep.
of saying we ain't investors.
This is the thing. We're a city council,
And it's an interesting point
not a
of
property management company.
what happens if city if the city feels the citizens feel like you have to worry about competing with the city for investments and stuff like that. Like you don't want that to be the feel.
Yeah, no. You want it to be, you want to have confidence in that.
Right. Yeah. They're just there for service.
Yeah.
It's simply to meet the needs of the city. You don't have to worry about competing against them, because that's hard to compete against.
It is. That's a lot to compete against at that
It
point,
is.
especially.
It's tough competing against yourself because you're paying taxes.
Yep.
So very interesting stuff all around right there.
It's a lot to go into with that. It was an incredibly eventful meeting 2 weeks ago.
It was. It was. So article out on that. Check it out. I think it's hopefully worth a read. The one about the trucks is worth a read as well. And then we have a budget one that's coming out here soon,
Yep.
which I know it's a little bit distant now. But very interesting stuff with the budget. And we're going to talk about it today.
Relevant again after tonight's meeting.
It will be.
There'll be more information to come out after tonight's meeting as well.
So one of the things though that was really cool at that city council meeting was when Harold Stewart had David Lakefield come up and explain the mills.
Yep.
It almost made sense.
It was very close.
Yeah.
I almost grasped it.
Yeah.
No,
he
did as good of a job as I've ever heard explain.
And our first time ever doing this. Here we go.
It'll decrease the mill levy and decrease the out-of-pocket costs from previous years to the citizens of Minot and property owners. With that, I want to turn some time over to Mr. Lakefield, our finance director. As I mentioned before,
You having trouble hearing there, buddy?
Part of his presentation that would have come underneath the city manager report earlier, but he's going to talk a little bit about the mill levy itself and how it's calculated and what it means.
All right, so here comes David Lakefield to talk about
evening, members of the
mill
council.
levy.
We're going to have some exciting discussion again about what is a mill. So there's a process that we go through. The finance office and the city manager's office works with the assessor's office to come up with all these numbers that we use to spread the request for property tax revenues across the tax base. So Ryan's crew goes out and looks at the properties and determines what the actual value is on those properties or what they would sell at market. Then the state law has a process on how we distill that down to actually get the taxable value. So right away we take 50% of that, and that is the assessed value. And then to arrive at the taxable value for residential properties, we multiply the assessed value times 9%. And for commercial properties, we take that assessed value times 10%, and that is the taxable value. And then what we do is when we devise our budget in our request for property taxes, we budget in dollars. So the 28 million and change that was on there, that's what we would submit for our request for property tax dollars. The county looks at the final assessments and does the math and says, this is what the bill will be on this piece of property valued at this dollar amount, and calculates the mill rate.
So pause it there. Thought that was interesting.
Definitely.
The way that they submit the total amount.
Yep. It's a whole figure number.
But
it doesn't get, go ahead.
On years, because this year the levy went down.
Yep. Which is the first time in quite a few years at this point.
Does that make you feel lied to though? All right, this is what I'm saying. Because maybe I don't have any quotes. Okay, so I can't call anybody out. But sometimes there's a feeling where, oh, you're going to keep the mills the same, but the house prices are going to go up. Mm-hmm. Did they go and they submit a mill rate, or did they go and they submit a total amount? Because he just said the way we do it is we submit the total amount.
Yep, and then we go off of that to get the mill rate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
so
I wonder how it happened in the past then. Yeah, if it was individually based or if they just took the whole amount off of it.
Yeah, and I'm sure each year they can probably do it differently, but he made it sound like the process is so that way if that's the case, then they should follow that every year. But interesting,
without a doubt.
So a mill is essentially just a mechanism that we use to distribute that request for tax dollars across all of the individual properties. So what we do is we take the total taxable value, the total request for dollars for property tax, calculate what the rate is, the mill rate, and then you can apply that same rate to an individual property to determine the amount that they have to pay in property taxes. So what is a mill? A mill is 1/1000th, so 0.001. And in this case, we're levying 115.07 mills. So we just have to move the decimal point. So pretty exciting stuff.
The whole moving the
All
decimal
right,
point
this
got me.
is just a
Yeah.
detection.
Just have to move the
I
decimal.
wish they had a graphic for that one. Like I get how you move decimal points, but it wasn't completely clear on how that was supposed to go down.
But no, yeah. Which way do I move the decimal point?
When you move,
I
Yeah.
know, yes. But no, going on. So the mill levy, it's the tax rate applied to the assessed value of a property. So 1 mill is $1 per $1,000 of assessed value.
Mhm.
It consists of a local portion of used fund and area services, and a statewide portion used to fund like public schools and stuff. So then that mill is 0.001 of, so that's that 1/1000th.
Yeah.
And it's one thing that's interesting. If we were looking at that prior graphic, you can see from 23 to 24, the total budget city mills that was budgeted in 23 was 120.08. It technically went down last year to 119.93, which granted saved about a whole dollar and change on your property tax at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Going forward to this year, though, it's a little bit more noticeable. It goes from 119.93 down to 115.07, which is a total property tax change down from 539.69 per $100,000 assessed property here. 539.69 down to 517.82. So roughly about $22 in savings.
On $100,000.
Yes. Which is at least
value.
a little bit more noticeable in comparison. And the one really interesting thing with this too, to me, so you have all of this changing, this going down, but they keep, because property assessments and property values are going up, which they fully expect that to happen. That's where the equaling out of, so the mill dollars are the same from last year, but that's because the property values are going up, and we're able to keep lowering that
Right.
mill a little bit
That
to
makes
try
sense.
to make it, to even it all out.
So let's like clarify what that means. So somebody had a piece of property.
Mhm.
It was worth $80,000. They went and they built a $400,000 home on that piece of property. Now it's worth $500,000.
Yep.
All right. So now their property tax just increased dramatically, but that decreased yours and mine property tax.
Yep.
Because the total amount requested that Lakeville was talking about is the same amount. So as other people's, and I mean, even your value, you're getting better bang for your buck.
Mhm.
But as far as actually feeling a decrease is because there's some values that probably increase substantially.
And one thing too that they were talking about, so they were talking about property assessment. They expect, and have already done some of this, so they expect the property value of Minot to go up over $200 million this year.
Wow.
2023, just a hair over 5 billion. 2024, they expect 5.2 billion. So it's going to be just under $5.25 billion of property in Minot.
And something else, this is why people are so passionate about TIFs.
Mhm.
Because if you had a company that paid, like, let's use a big number, let's use $1 million.
There's no big whole number.
Yep. So they're paying $1 million a year in property tax, which is an outrageous amount.
Yep.
But I mean, take Epic with their two properties
Two
that they
massive
have.
properties.
Yeah. Perhaps you're starting to get close. You're 500,000. That would have a dramatic effect on my property
Without
taxes.
a doubt. That's a massive decrease for you at that point, and an
Right.
increase to the whole city.
Yep, absolutely. So that's when people are saying, well, I don't want to have to pay property taxes for them. That's what they're meaning. Like the city went and requested or said that our property tax, we need this much revenue from property taxes in order to create a budget, which we'll talk about, still increased by $28 million. This budget
Yes,
did.
it went up quite a bit.
But that's how those TIFs begin to affect you as you live your life.
That's how that trickle down of TIF ends up working out.
Yep. There's something else I want to jump to in this clip,
Yeah,
if I can find it. The reserves.
sure. Cash reserves. Yep. That was a big discussion, going through all the different departments, talking, and that's something there I'm interested in too. But
You want to go on this
no,
first?
Let's do yours. We're already going on that. So yeah, talking about the cash reserves, they go over every department, and every department is supposed to theoretically have 30% of their total reserves, or their total cash in hand, be cash reserves. So here's the graphic and the slide here.
Yeah. Do we want to hear Dave talk? just for the joy of it?
You could, yeah, you can play it. We might
Right.
as well. We can try out our new
1/12
stuff.
of their operating budget, and each fund has to be maintained as a reserve. A few years ago, the policy was changed a little bit with the increase in costs and some of the ways that the government operates. It was prudent to increase that to 3/12 of the operating budget. So that was implemented at that point. We have other restrictions on the fees and bond covenants that we're contractually obligated to keep in reserve. We're anticipating adding to reserves in some of the funds for 2024. And then one of the recommendations from the GFOA is that you maintain a 30% operating reserve in your largest fund, which in our case happens to be the general fund. And I think I've discussed that in a presentation in prior meetings. We have some funds that are, some reserves that are earmarked to be used in future projects. So we've kind of taken the policy that when we have large expenditures coming up, that we'll set aside money for a number of years to build up that balance and then spend the money, just like we would put money into a savings account in anticipation for a large purchase. The city has taken that approach to funding some large projects. And then, of course, the last section is what's available to be used. The one thing that we don't show on this graphic is some of the large projects that we have looming on the horizon
Right.
that would be potential uses for some of these reserves as well. We have a building at the old, I think we refer to it now as the Legacy City Hall building that we anticipate the police department is going to be occupying, that will need some money. We have a little bit set aside, and we'll show that in a future slide here. But overall, the money that we have set aside for that is not enough to address the needs over there. So that's not included in this calculation. So that is an example of a project that has a significant price tag that we would tap into those reserves to utilize.
This is a good
graphic
breakdown
here
so we
just
can see it.
shows, in 2024 budget, in the 2025 budget. Again,
Well,
by fund,
Little audio.
what we anticipate either using in the year or putting back into reserves. So a negative dollar amount here is a good thing. That means we're actually putting some money into reserves.
And a negative is anything
In
with the
the-
parentheses.
right. Yeah. So I think that's a good place to stop because it's interesting to see. And there's, I mean, it's 168 pages, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's very large.
So going through and figuring out where all these reserves are being used, but like there's a decent amount of reserves that are going to be used this year.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Cemetery is going to use it. Is the airport and parking authority and debt retirement are the only things that are getting an increase in reserves.
Yep. Seems to happen with the airport pretty frequently. I know they
No, they're getting money into the
they're getting
reserves.
money. Oh, excuse me. Yep. Okay.
They're the
that's good.
only. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
good. Yeah,
right.
no,
It's
that's
good.
the flip side from what the airport has done historically, which a lot of times they've had to be subsidized. So
Right.
the fact they're actually being able to put some in their cash reserves is fantastic.
Everything else though is spending reserves.
Yep. Especially the capital flood control is going to have a.
Well, but
That's an expected one.
that right. That's some of the and that's a really good point
Mhm.
because some of these areas, there's literally money was accumulated in there over time,
Yeah.
so that way it could all be spent out.
Yeah.
We don't want to always have to be spending massive amounts of money on flood control.
Yeah, you don't spend 19 million every year on it. It'll
Yeah.
be 5 and then it'll be 20 kind
Right.
of thing.
And then
ebbs
eventually it'll be
flows.
almost zero.
Exactly at the end.
And like the sales tax NAS, that's another one of those things
Yeah.
where money is accumulated for this and now it's just being spent out. So like some of those things is a good thing. And you see last year sales tax flood control was actually in 2024 there was actually a reserve that was put in. So there must be more projects going on there this year, whatever. And then you have the capital fund control, flood control. But kind of interesting just to see how like the total reserves used is gonna be 43 million.
Yeah, which is it's a lot of money.
Feels like that's a lot.
It does.
So interesting thing. What's a couple points that you wanted to go over? I know there's a couple things you had.
One I was thinking of, if you could find it, you don't have to specifically, but there was the collections and mill rate. It was just kind of this just
Did you take a screenshot of it? Do I have
a
it?
screenshot of it? Yeah, I sent that.
Is it the first one?
It's not the first one. It says collections and mill rate, but it's kind of, it goes over the amount of property taxes collected in the city of Minot versus what that mill
Dude.
rate is.
I missed some of your screenshots. Dude, this guy went all out. He did a fantastic job, and I'm letting him down right now.
Oh, it's all
So
good.
let's just
If I would
make
be
that
more
clear.
prepared to know how to do this, we could as well. But so going over it. So Minot had a mill rate that was typically above the collected, assumed collected amount of property tax until around 2017, 2018. That's when the mill rate started going up considerably. It was, does it say on here? Yeah, it doesn't go back that far, so I can't. So in 2010, the mill was 108.59. It went down in 2011 after the flood. I'm sure to help a lot with post-flood easements with that. And then it slowly went up again. Then in 2013, kind of stayed around the same for 14, 15, 16, 17, which then it spiked up all over from 2018
There's
to
your graphic.
2019. Yeah, there it is. Okay, perfect. So we can see what we're talking about now. So then it spikes up in that 2018-19 range, and collections go up, but also that mill rate continues going up. And my big thing with this is I wonder what happened in that 2017-18 range. Did property valuations end up going down? Is that why they had to put that mill rate up that high? That's my question. And then obviously come 2019, 2020, when it goes down, that's COVID-19 pandemic. So understandable why they did it then. But then effectively the last 4 years, it's all stayed the same until now next year. It's going to at least actually have a noticeable effect.
But just to be clear, in this graphic, the yellow is the mill rate,
yes,
right?
Yellow is the mill rate, blue is the city collections from property taxes.
Right. So it's not that property values went down that much, because 2019 was a huge spike in property taxes.
Without a doubt. And obviously some of that comes from the mill continuing to be raised. So the mill was over, it had to be over 120 at that point, like probably 125.
But they're just they're submitting their total amount that they want in property taxes.
Yeah. Yep. That's
if that's how they do it every year.
That's true.
So they don't even care about the mill.
In theory, but then property
we do,
of course.
Yeah.
But
what I'm saying is they didn't like, oh, property taxes values went down. They're just like, and I get what you're saying. It's
an interesting thing, and especially in that time frame. I know there was a lot of, I know we talked about this off the screen, but there was a lot of talk about property taxes and things taxes being lowered in general. And I mean, here's a clear example of it. Not.
Yeah. All right. So about the budget, I think these are some interesting things to me. They did a zero-based budget this year.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think that's
so what that means is they didn't go and look at all the numbers that were done last year and said, all right, we're going to use the same numbers. They streamlined it, maybe not streamlined it. They went like deep into this and said, all right, do we need to actually spend this money that we said we needed to spend last year? That's what zero-based budget means. That's the way they did it. I thought that's fantastic. Yep. It should be done every year. Another really interesting thing that City Manager Harold Stewart said is that they are already, while they are doing the 2025 budget, they are looking at the 2026 budget. They're taking a multi-year approach to budgeting.
Which is the first time they've done that.
First time, which I think is fantastic, because you begin to be able to address projects more appropriately, and be able to look at maybe the needs and stuff like that of the projects differently, and be able to address them better, I believe.
And one big thing that they have already, they put out as one of the last slides they had, for a first look at the 2026 budget, they're already anticipating a $14 million deficit.
That's exciting.
So that's one thing that'll definitely have to be worked on in that time frame,
which is incredible, because this year and now, to be fair, if we went and we looked at 2023, in 2023 look at the 2024 budget, it would have been something similar.
Mm-hmm.
But they're requesting a budget that is $28 million more, more than what it was in 2024.
Went up from a total, like grand total, everything included, general fund, all the funds included, $199,298,060 in 2024. It now is up to $227,726,302, $28,328,000 increase, or 14.2%.
And they put some stuff on the back burner. For instance, they put wayfinding signs on the back burner.
For the most part. Largely put them on. Like the only thing that they're really going to be doing immediately is the updating and refinishing of the big entrance signs into the city. Big City of Minot signs. Other than that, all of the additional signage and everything is being pushed off.
So they put that on the back burner. Then they for the new city hall. or New City Hall. Sorry, we have
Legacy
that.
City Hall.
Legacy City Hall. They went and they've been putting money aside so that way they could revamp that. They said we won't do that in 2025.
So then that's already one thing that they're having. They have that mention in their 2026 first look. So there's that, and there's they have some vehicle equipment replacement fund that they're already getting filled in. There's an inflation, workforce, construction, and payment.
And you're talking about 2026.
This is 2026.
I'm talking about 2025 still.
Excuse me. Okay, excuse me. We're on 2025. My bad.
So
I was just having. I had their first look pulled up there.
No money being put for the Legacy City Hall in 2025.
Yeah.
And then a huge deal was they had a consultant, City of Minot. The City of Minot,
Us
had a consultant come in about wages, and they, in the budget, there's a proposed $2.3 million increase across the board in wages, which is incredible. Now, if you go and you listen to what City Manager Harold Stewart had to say on that, the almost suggested one was a hybrid that would cost like 1.6 or 1.7 million dollars.
What, 3 or 4 different?
There's 3 or 4 different options.
Plans, yeah.
But one of them was like, don't do anything.
Yeah.
We don't advise that. Please don't take that option.
Yeah.
Option 2 was do it all, 2.3. Option 3 was do basically they're doing the way that the City of Minot works is there's 17 steps. I believe it's 16 or 17 steps that you have until you reach the most amount of money that you can make as a city employee. So it's a step system. But then after talking with his consultant, they're like, all right, that's great, but you need to have a market adjustment right now to your step system. Like you're behind the market, even with your steps.
Yep.
So they were looking at 2 increases for employees. They were looking at the market increase, just so they can be competitive in the market, and then the step increase that the employees essentially deserve as they go and they work at the company.
A way to help promote moving up in your career.
Right. Absolutely. So the hybrid approach was to go and take you get one or the other, whichever is the most, and it cannot exceed 2 steps on the ladder.
Yep. Which I think that should.
And there was something unclear when he said it, because he said 2.5%, each step is 2.5% is what he said. And then he said, so the most that one employee would increase by is 10%. So I'm not understanding that if he meant to say each step is 5% or if he just misspoke when he said 10%.
Sure. Yeah, no, because that doesn't quite.
It doesn't add up. So I could have messed up something there. I could have, or he could have. But that's probably and that's only 2.3. There's a $28 million increase. There's a lot more stuff in there. We're going to hear a lot of it unpacked tonight.
Yep.
But that's one of the big budget items that's like, you got to be careful. And he's like, this doesn't even include the benefits. And it's important to remember this. Like, this is one of the most expensive parts of the city right here, just trying to figure out how to pay everybody and keep it competitive and keeping benefits.
And that's one big thing they're having on the future into 2026 for a look ahead is revamping the public safety retirement system. So emergency responders, trying to update and improve on that plan. And I know that was mentioned at a couple city council meetings earlier in the year. We're trying to get a better retirement system in place for our emergency and first responders. And I know that is something that they're already looking ahead to in the 2026 budget.
Gotcha. And then the fire chief said, no new fire engine.
They might get a used one.
Used one, maybe 2 used ones.
Yeah.
A new fire engine, if someone wanted to donate one, $900,000. It's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
So expensive. One other thing too, I know that the city was talking about something to potentially add an update and add a new source of revenue to the city would be updating and revamping the franchise fee requirements into the city. So they were talking the potential of it, and in places like West Fargo, and Grand Forks, so West Fargo and Grand Forks, they get it from, you can get franchise fees off of a lot of things, whether it be like electric, gas, cable television companies, things like that.
Yeah.
So from just electric and gas in West Fargo, they get $3.3 million in revenue.
Wow.
So,
all right. So
that's a potential thing that Minot could add and look into on revamping into the future as well.
I want to say this though, and I think we actually have the graphic right here. This graphic right here says, I don't want to do anything like West Fargo.
That's true as well. Because looking at the revenue comparison here in the state among 7 of the largest cities in the state. So you have the revenue comparison here that shows the total money each city has brought in, and then this one is broken up into a per capita. So you have the total revenue, and I think this one is minus sales tax. Am I looking at the right one here? Yep, minus sales tax and then divided by the population. So it's just property tax and special assessments that affect a person.
So this is with
sales tax.
Yeah, with sales tax.
Yep. So yeah,
minus.
Yep. So yeah, looking at this one without sales tax, so not talking about how that affects a person. Minot is, what is it, third most expensive city? Right. Yep. Which barely, with Grand Forks, $661 per capita to Minot $663 per capita. So it certainly affects us, but it doesn't affect us nearly to the point as somewhere like West Fargo.
But it's and because I stumble with my words, but it seems like a lot of people pick on Fargo, but they're incorrect in doing that.
Yeah.
You got to pick on West Fargo.
Yep.
West Fargo is the problem here.
Yep.
There's this insane.
It is incredible how much West Fargo is getting taxed.
Without the sales tax, if we're doing this right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Without sales tax. Yep.
Okay.
And this one is then with sales tax. So this is the total tax burden per capita on residents in these cities. So you take the total amount of revenue from taxes that the city gets in, you divide it by the population. This is how much every person pays in taxes.
And we stay the third highest.
Yeah. So we're still at that $1,124 per person, which is still more expensive than somewhere like Fargo, but also
it's crazy that Bismarck beats us.
They do, yeah. They're cheaper than us, and they're quite a bit larger.
But they don't beat us here.
No, not. So that just shows you, yeah, the amount, how much sales tax affects, and especially if you look at a place like Williston, that's one place that's notorious for having pretty cheap property taxes. But at the same time, you can just see how expensive and how much of their sales tax affects.
Right. Yep, that's a really interesting thing. Yeah, Williston gets sales tax that is $3 million less than Minot, and they make almost the same amount as Bismarck.
Yep,
it's crazy.
And we are 5th in the state in total revenue, which is also kind of surprising that a place like West Fargo out revenues us. But also that shows how much they have in taxes from that.
But see, West Fargo is like a borderline. Fargo is a borderline metropolis.
Fargo for sure. Yeah.
And West Fargo plays into that because West Fargo feeds from that.
Without a doubt.
And West Fargo has Sandy's Donuts, and that has to say something. but West Fargo, you have a couple of towns that are still west of West Fargo that are big, that I just cannot think. They have a great high school sports team that does well every year at state, in basketball and stuff. And so also some stuff like that would play into the sales tax.
Without a doubt.
To help out revenue. But
no,
it's interesting. I just randomly jumped to that. Didn't mean to. Sorry, folks.
No, you're good. I think that was necessary to talk. We had it all on here. So yeah, we got it for a reason. We have points on all this we can mention. But yeah, it's a lot goes into this. We've spent the last few days hammering the stuff out and going through it, trying to at least remotely get it straightened out so we can try to present it to you in the best light possible. We might not be great at it, and I'm no budget expert by any stretch.
But I'll say this is something that we're going to be prioritizing over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So tonight, obviously, you should stay tuned for a budget talk at 5:30. We considered, and we're not, I think the decision is a no, we're not going to do it. But we considered going live to actually take in some of the information,
live commentary as it goes, kind of thing.
But we're not going to do that. But it's probably going to be in some ways boring to do that,
without a doubt.
Just because it's budget talks. But we are going to be tracking this full bore.
I will be there tonight. I'll be there to sit through it all. I'll have an article out on it.
If you need a signed autograph from Kyler, he will be at City Hall tonight.
I'll act extremely awkward and be taken aback, but I will do it.
Yeah, there you go. So that's happening. Obviously, next Monday is city council meeting. Show up if you have opinions on budget. I don't even know what the agenda is yet. I don't think we know that yet. But show up. There's a personal appearances time. You can go and take your 15 minutes, even though it should be 5. And you can talk about the budget. Everyone gets their chance. Shoot your shot. And then we're going to be releasing some articles on the Livingston Cooley
Yep, on the budget in
the whole
general.
flood project.
We're going to have one coming out on the school board meeting either today or tomorrow.
Hey, let's give.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with my pads. Okay.
Well, it's
How
perfect.
appropriate.
It's
All right.
there it is.
All right. We found it. Okay. This was me.
You tried. First try. Second
First try. That was my first try right there. All right. But a shout out to Representative Scott Lauser.
Right. Steps in first school board meeting.
Yes. One of his first school board meetings, he delivers on a campaign promise that he had for Minot School Board, and that was moving the school board time from during the workday to
Was it at 4 p.m.?
it was at 4 p.m.
Yep.
on the second Thursday, I believe.
Yep.
Now it is on the second Thursday still at 5:30 p.m.
Yep.
So make sure you show up. If you have an opinion on the schools, show up.
And same thing on the flip side too.
City Council.
They live stream these off the Minot Public Schools YouTube
Right.
page, so you
They
can
do.
watch these every
But-
time, and you can go back and watch them too.
On that though, the discussion that was had about it was what we hear in the words of the school board is that people aren't showing up for this, but they'll watch it later on the live stream. Okay. And that's great, but they don't feel the pressure
If
of,
you're not there,
and I say pressure, and I don't mean that in a negative connotation. I'm just saying they don't feel the pressure of having you there, which pressure builds. It
Just-
creates
just
stay
having-
stronger.
just having the eyeballs on them.
Right. And that's good. They want that. They want that. They want to feel like you care about their opinion, whether it is positive or negative. They want to hear it. They do. I really believe that.
They, at the very least, they should want to.
Yeah, they should want to. But I do believe that they do want to hear the opinion. They want to hear the good side and they want to hear the bad side so they can most effectively make a decision.
Yep. Best, most informed decision they can possibly come to at that point. Because that's the thing. All of our representatives at local government, we've mentioned this before. I think this will be a common thing we talk about. They're all nonpartisan. They're there to represent the people of Minot, not a party's interest. So
Yeah.
if you need to come to them, you need to bring your opinion forth. And if they get, hopefully, if they get a majority of opinions like that, they can go on with that.
Right. Absolutely. So show up to these things, man. They want to hear from you.
I'll talk. I'm there. I'll be weird, but I'll talk to you by all means. Come say hi.
At the minimum, you can meet Kyler, get that autograph. So that's happening second Thursdays of the month. Obviously, Monday, big night with the city council, and then tonight's a huge night with budget talks. That's some big stuff.
Yeah, next Tuesday is going to be a massive Minot talk for us.
It will be,
Do we want to try to get something in between?
dude. Everyone's
Minot
Minot talk is a massive one.
Maybe 2 weeks ago, and the first half hour was cut out.
It was massive.
It was a great conversation. Again, Leif, if you're watching, thanks for being here. I had fun.
We're gonna have him back.
Yeah, we have to.
We're gonna have him back, and we're also gonna start getting some city council people here to go through budget, but to go through the new dynamics of the city council.
And I think we have to wait until after probably the second meeting in August, because that's when City Council President Mark Janser presents his budget proposal at that point. And
That'll
so
be interesting.
then after we have that, we can kind of go off them both and see where they're going to go with it
That's right.
Go forth with it. So I think after that would be a good time to start trying to get them on.
So if there's people you want to have us interview on Minot Matters, let us know.
if you want to be interviewed by Minot Matters,
Yeah.
Minot Matters or Minot Talk,
Yeah, there's a chance you could get on as well. If you're a small business, reach out to us. I would love to do an article on you. All right. I want to start highlighting some small businesses
yeah.
around Minot. So that's another side note. But we're going to start working our way through as long as they'll oblige, we're going to start working our way through the Minot City Council with some interviews. Hear from the mayor here soon. Obviously, if they all oblige, we're going to start doing that for you guys. So that way we can have this connection into our city council, which is important. So
it is
exciting things happening.
a lot of stuff coming up, big budget things. It's Minot. There's always stuff going on. Honeybee or the Hot Tots are in town.
Yeah.
Always fun. They're going to be done playing soon. So make sure you check them out before the end of summer's up.
Do it. Kyler said so.
Yes.
So
Been a
all
great
right.
episode, Jonathan.
Been another good one. A lot of interesting things covered. The budget will continue to be a work in progress. But to all our listeners and to all of our viewers, thank you for watching this episode of My Talks. It happens every Tuesday at 2 p.m. here at the Dakotan. Be sure to go to mydakotan.com. We're having articles up every single day for you covering some national stuff that affects North Dakota and North Dakota stuff that affects Minot. And everything Minot. We're having it there at mydakotan.com. You can also check out past episodes of Minot Matters, the Dakotan Selection Central, and Minot Talk right there at mydakotan.com. It's the place. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. All right. Like, subscribe. Do it. Just please.
We're not, we ask you graciously.
Yeah, graciously.
Yes.
Nonetheless, thank you for watching this episode. Have a great rest of your day.